The literary term for this week is caricature. You should write down the term and the definition in your Bellringer book. The quick definition, adapted from the Abrams Glossary of Literary Terms, is this: when a verbal description or graphic representation exaggerates or distorts for comic effect a person's distinctive physical features or personality traits. Let's have a look at this caricature on the right of the photograph on the left. You'll agree that there are similarities, and the young man is recognizable in the caricature, but it doesn't look much like him. This illustrates the exaggerated, distorted effect. The earrings are roughly the same, but the mouth and hair are wildly different. The effect is, of course, to elicit a chuckle from us, the viewers. I can imagine that this young man's friends rolled around on the floor with laughter on seeing this depiction of him. Now let's look at how this is done with someone famous. All proud South Africans will instantly recognize this rugby player. It's the World Cup winning captain of the Springbok rugby team. Here he is in his provincial team strip, the blue and white jersey of the Stormers. From the photograph, he looks young, fit, and about to pass the rugby ball. Here is a caricature of the same situation, but now he's dressed in the green and gold of the Springbok strip. You'll see that his arm muscles are almost as large as his head, emphasizing his upper body strength. There is the big mouth with the gleaming white teeth and the distinctive haircut. Without a doubt, it is Siya Kolisi. He does seem to have missed out on some leg days at gym, doesn't he? Now let's have a look at what caricatures have in common. You should all recognize this character, Mr. Bean, as played by British actor Rowan Atkinson. Note the lollipop head, the enlarged eyes, and the very prominent mole or beauty spot on his left cheek. Here's someone else you should recognize, the Fresh Prince himself, actor Will Smith. Although this caricature is very different to that of Mr. Bean's, there are features that they have in common. The big head, the enlarged mouth, and here Will Smith's ears are humongous. Finally, the 45th American president, who is the gift that keeps on giving to cartoonists, Donald Trump. Again, we have an enlarged head. There are other details too. His famously blonde hairdo, the peachy skin tone, the red tie, the sour facial expression. There's also a contextual marker in the American flag behind him. Although I'm sure, though, that there isn't anyone in the world who would not have recognized this caricature. Now, in case I am accused of picking on the menfolk, let's have a look at some female caricatures. This is Marilyn Monroe in the iconic pose from the 1955 film The 7-Year Itch. Like Mr. Bean, there is a prominent beauty spot and the enlarged or lollipop head. I'm sure that you'll all recognize this one, the rapper Cardi B. We have the usual exaggerations, head and mouth, but added to that are the hoop earrings and the Cruella de Vil nails, or should I say talons. And lastly, the matriarch of the British royal family, Queen Elizabeth II. There are details in this cartoon that are just delightful. The sensible old lady's shoes, the extremely tailored yet shapeless dress, the gloved hands, the string of pearls, the stiff and formal hairdo, and my personal favorite, the handbag hung on the arm like an ornament. I do always wonder what she carries in it. Spare change for a bus ride home in case she misses her lift to Buckhouse in the Bentley? Who knows? In the 1980s, the British television series Spitting Image was very popular. The characters were puppets, caricatures of people in the news. On this DVD cover, you can see the then Prime Minister of England, Margaret Thatcher, the so-called Iron Lady, in the centre front. Top left is a picture of Prince Charles, Diana, Princess of Wales, and a young Prince William, he's the one wearing the sunglasses, and Prince Harry, the one with the big ears. If you look more closely, you'll also see Queen Elizabeth, the Pope, and Ronald Reagan, the then President of the United States. The program was known for its sharp, or actually cutting, humor, as everyone in the public eye was considered fair game. The series has been resurrected in this decade, largely because there's so much material out there for the puppeteers. Think Donald Trump. Think Boris Johnson. Caricature artists and satirists are spoilt for choice. Now, it's very easy to see how caricature is used in drawings and art. It's not always that easy to see how it's used in writing or literary works. Almost every fairy story that you read as a child is actually a caricature, making use of stereotypes. Do you remember Cinderella? Hansel and Gretel? Snow White? The wicked stepmother is the stereotype or caricature that is central to all of these stories. In English literature, some of the most well-known authors have used caricature. Jonathan Swift's satirical piece, A Modest Proposal, is a great starting point. Jane Austen's description of Mr. Bennet, the henpecked husband in Pride and Prejudice, is hilarious. But in my opinion, the king of caricature is Charles Dickens, the author of novels such as Great Expectations, Bleak House, and The Pickwick Papers. Here is a description of Uriah Heep, a character in Charles Dickens's novel, David Copperfield. Heap's hair was cropped as close as the closest stubble. He had hardly any eyebrows and no eyelashes, and eyes of a red brown, so unsheltered and unshaded. He was high-shouldered and bony, dressed in decent black with a white wisp of a neckcloth, buttoned up to the throat, and had a long, lank skeleton hand. You might dismiss this as an overly descriptive passage, but the use of the emotive words to describe the character's eyes and that long, lanky skeleton hand must evoke a picture of a rather creepy and untrustworthy figure. The vivid description by Charles Dickens should have had you conjure a mental image such as this one, or this one, which shows the actor Nicholas Lyndhurst cast as Uriah Heep in a film version of David Copperfield. Such writing is not limited to novels. In 2010, a number of journalists were writing pieces about Barack Obama's perceived unpredictability. A journalist in the New York Times addressed this by pointing out that partisan commentators were exploiting features of verbal caricature to their own ends because there was still uncertainty about Obama's cultural identity. You might remember discussions about the authenticity of Obama's birth certificate, whether he was actually born in the United States, or even whether he was Muslim or not. The New Yorker magazine fanned the flames of this controversy when they published the July 2008 edition of their magazine, with a cover depicting Barack and Michelle Obama in the White House Oval Office. You can see that Obama is dressed in traditional Muslim garb. His wife is in camouflage with an assault rifle slung over her shoulder. You should notice her afro hairstyle, the picture of Osama bin Laden on the wall, and the American flag burning in the fireplace. It's no wonder that this picture is entitled The Politics of Fear. Well, why was this printed in 2008, you might ask? Well, that was the year that Obama was the Democratic nominee for the American presidential election, an election that he won. This kind of writing, as you have seen in the paragraph on the screen, could well be used in a text given to you in assessments. You should be able to identify the techniques used by writers to caricature their subjects. What would you expect to find in a list of features of written caricature? The most obvious and well used is the technique of exaggeration. This is often linked to the stereotypes that we've come to know so well: the dumb blonde, the henpecked husband, the sporty jock, the weedy nerd, the punctual Swiss man, the precise German. You should be familiar with all of these. So yes, the use of cliché here is acceptable. The success of the caricature lies in the detail that you can write about the character's appearance or personality traits. It's really difficult to write good caricatures, but they're relatively easy to analyze, and it's easy to appreciate such writing. Look out for caricature everywhere, in cartoons, posters, propaganda, advertising, and opinion pieces. This video is one of a series of BELLRINGER activities. Students should have BELLRINGER books. Mine use hardcover A5 notebooks in which they jot down the notes, definition, and reminders from these BELLRINGER videos. If you would like to incorporate more of these BELLRINGER videos in your teaching or learning, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends and colleagues. And feel free to drop me a line at the email address that you see on the screen if you have any suggestions or requests for more BELLRINGER activities.